Hello everyone, my name is Anangsha Alamyan and welcome back to my channel where we talk about how you can make a living as a writer writing about exactly what you want. A few days ago, I made a video about 4 websites that pay you $100 or more per article, and a few days later, I also made a video about how you can earn up to 5,000 US dollars for writing fiction stories. I got a lot of requests in the comments asking me for how you can make money by writing poems online, and this video is exactly that. Today, we are going to discuss 4 websites that pay you for writing poems to them. So if you are someone who loves writing poems, or if you know a person who is a great poet but has never been appreciated enough for their poetry, then this video is just for you. Make sure you watch until the end because I'm also going to share some tips on how you can get accepted into these poetry publications worldwide. So without further ado, let's get started. The first magazine that pays you is called the Poetry Foundation magazine. It's completely free to submit and you can submit one poem at a time. The wait time here is 8 months. So if you submit a poem today, you have to wait until 8 months to receive either an acceptance or a rejection. I know this is really hard work to wait for 8 months, but they pay you quite well. For every accepted poem they publish, they are going to pay you 10 US dollars per line of the poem with a minimum of 300 US dollars per published poem. Of course, they only accept previously unpublished works, and their submission guidelines is very strict about work that has even appeared as social media captions or anywhere else on your personal blog is not eligible to be considered. They only accept poems that have never been published anywhere on the internet. Interesting part about the Poetry Foundation magazine is that you can also submit audio poems and video poems as well. Also, the same poem can be published in multiple formats as well. They pay $300 as a fixed rate for all video and all audio poems. And if your poem is published in multiple formats, they're going to pay you $150 for each format the poem is published in. Since it's free to submit, I think every person who loves writing poems should definitely consider submitting to the Poetry Foundation magazine. All submissions need to be made via their submissions page, which is linked right in the description of this video. The next magazine that pays you for your poems is AGNI. AGNI has 2 submission windows. The first is from September 1st to 15th of December of every year. In case you missed this window for any reason, their second submission window opens from February 15 and goes on until May 31st of the same year. So if you miss this window this time, you can always submit it another time on the next window. AGNI pays you 40 US dollars per printed page of the poem with a maximum of $300 for each poem. Aside from that, they also give you 1 year free subscription to their magazine. And if your poem appears in the printed version of the magazine, they also send you 6 free copies of the magazine so you can distribute it to your friends and family. AGNI also accepts prose, fiction and creative non-fiction from the writers, but it does not accept anything in these 4 genres: romance, horror, mystery and science fiction. So if your poem or your prose is in these genres, then they won't be accepted. But the editors of AGNI encourage submissions in these other fields like personal essays, think poems, prose poems, creative non-fiction, etc. For prose, the payment is $20 per printed page, which is a great rate considering the online prices of other competitive places. So there are 2 ways to submit your poems or your prose to AGNI. You can either send them a mail by the postal system with your return address along with postage, and if you use snail mail or if you use the postal system to send your poems, then your submission is completely free and you can send up to 5 poems in one envelope. But if you choose to make the submission through their online portal, which is linked in the description of this video, then you have to pay a one-time submission fee of $3. If you want to skip this submission fee, you can feel free to send them a snail mail and send your poems at their address. You are going to find the address of AGNI in the description of this video. The third magazine that pays you for your poems is the EPOCH Magazine, which is published by Department of Literatures in English of Cornell University. The submission window for EPOCH Magazine is open from the 15th of September to the 15th of April of the next year. So currently their submission window is open, and if you have any poem that's not been published anywhere, you can definitely consider submitting to EPOCH Magazine. Their submission is not online, unfortunately, but you can always send them a snail mail at their address, which is linked in the description of this video. You can send up to 5 poems at a time, so when you're writing a cover letter to them, make sure you include all your 5 poems in the same envelope to be considered for submission. There is no submission fee and it's completely free to submit your poem to EPOCH Magazine. They pay you a minimum of $50 per poem. There is no maximum and it's entirely up to the discretion of the editors. You can also submit fiction stories to EPOCH Magazine and they pay you a maximum of $150 per fiction story published. The last magazine that we are going to discuss in today's video is called the Fiddlehead Magazine. Fiddlehead has 2 submission windows starting from September 15th to November 30 of each year. And if you miss this submission window, you can always submit in their next submission window, which opens from February 15th to April 30th. So if you have missed their submission window this time, make sure you bookmark this video and you mark it on your calendar. So when the submission guidelines open for the next time, you don't miss out on this amazing opportunity. They pay you $60 CAD for each published page of your poem. Aside from poems, the Fiddlehead also accepts creative non-fiction as well as fiction pieces. They also accept artwork which they will use on the cover of their magazine, and if your artwork or your photography work gets selected for their cover, you are going to get a one-time payment of $200. The Fiddlehead is specially inclusive to writers of color, writers with disabilities, and writers from the LGBTQIA+ community, and also people from communities that are not usually represented in mainstream popular literature. If you identify yourself as belonging to either of these categories, you can feel free to mention this in your cover letter. There is no submission fee to submit to the Fiddlehead Magazine, but they have a 6-month wait time. So whenever you submit a piece of artwork, a poem or a fiction story, you have to wait for 6 months before you can hear an acceptance or rejection. So these are the 4 places that pay you incredible rates for submitting your poems. Before we conclude, let's quickly go through some tips so that your chances of getting accepted are increased. First of all, your poems are always going to be judged on their creativity. So make sure you do not copy the poems anywhere and you show as much originality as you can. Secondly, editors love pieces that make them think. So if you have written about some thought-provoking issue that you feel is too close to your heart, that poem might be the best fit for places like this. Aside from that, these places only accept poems in English, and if you are looking for places to submit poems in other languages, please let me know what language you want to write your poem in, and I'll make sure I'll do some research and find the right place for you to submit your poem. I hope this video was useful to you. If you know a poet or if you know someone who you know writes incredible poems, definitely forward this video to them because I'm sure they'll find it super valuable. If you have any questions regarding any of these magazines that I mentioned, or if you want me to make a video on any specific topic of your choice, feel free to let me know in the comments. Before I conclude, I'd like you to know that I make these videos to help writers from all over the world, and I do it completely free just as a way to give back to the community that has given me so much in my life. If you'd like to support me on this journey, feel free to buy me a book. The link to buy me a book is also in the description of this video. So that brings us to the end of today's video. I'll see you again soon. Until then, keep writing and stay awesome. Cheers!